What's up, y'all? One Piece One Life here, and guys, it's a great time to be a One Piece fan. The anime has made its grand return, and we are right in the middle of Kuma's flashback. Hands down, the best flashback in the entire series. And I already know so much tragedy already happened, but anime watchers, y'all don't even know what's coming yet. Meanwhile, in the manga, we started another flashback, this time Harold and Loki's. And in the past few weeks, we've concluded that Loki is Yonko level, his mom is just Hera from Greek mythology, and King Harold would change immediately for a woman. Also, did I mention that Emu is on Elbaf? So much craziness is going on in the official material right now, but Oda decided to bless us with even more, a new rendition of the SBS. And if you still to this point somehow don't know what the SBS is, it's essentially Oda's question corner where people ask him questions and he can choose whether or not to respond. More likely not. He gets a lot of questions. And this one is slightly longer, a true treasure trove of information, if you will. Now if you're ready to dive into a bunch of new info, y'all, please do this for me. Like the video, okay? That's incredibly important. Subscribe to the channel for more One Piece content just like this every week. And share it around with all your friends who love the series. You know what we always say here. Let's get it going. Oh, and make sure you subscribe to me and my boys over at CSY. We just dropped Black Invincible Part 2, and this video is the one. So first off, we get this guy. I'm sure you have no idea who this is, if you even remember. And that's because we didn't have a name for him. Until now. So remember back in Kuma's flashback when we got glimpses of the Rocks crew on God Valley? There was this guy with the sunglasses and everyone was wondering if Oda's highlighting him, does that mean he's an important person like Wang Ji or Silver Axe or something? Turns out this guy is Gil Baster. Interesting thing about him, he was actually the main character of one of Oda's previous one-shots, Wanted, where this guy got a freakishly high bounty because he kept killing people in self-defense. Which, to be fair, if you are going to kill somebody, it should be in self-defense. Now, Oda took this one-shot character and made him into manga canon. Not only by adding him to the Rocks crew, but also later on, it's revealed that this zombie, one of the general zombies that we see in Thriller Bark, that as well is Gil. Crazy how things turn out, isn't it? Then we got somebody asking, Oda, are the designs of the Elbaf villages modeled after Viking villages? Yes, they are. As the majority of people would have surmised, he took a lot of inspiration from Scandinavia. I'm not gonna lie, in my opinion, this was a waste of a question. I don't think he could have been more on the nose about it being Scandinavia if he named one of the villages Scandinavia. And then we get some character card info for Hiruden's crew. You know, the boring stat stuff. The Bum Prince himself is 22 meters tall, 81 years old, which means approximately 27 in human years, and his favorite food is meatballs. Best girl Gerd clocks in at 17 meters tall, 75 years old, which means about 25, and her favorite food is hamburgers and macarons. Very interesting that Gerd likes macarons. Who would have known? Gerd, I myself too, dabble in macaron creation. Then we have Stanson, just Stanson. He's 19.5 meters tall, 81 years old, the same age as Hiruden, and his favorite food is, checks notes, Battlefront meals. Yeah, so I'm not sure what this guy's backstory is, but it better involve a war of some kind. So no matter what it is, as long as you're eating in an active war, you don't care. That's like rations. Then we have Drakeberg, who's 21 meters tall, 63 years old, so about 21, and his favorite food is roasted ham. And from the look of him, he must eat a lot of it. And finally, we got everybody's favorite creep, Ovi Road, 26 meters tall, the tallest of any of them, the same age as Drakeberg, and his favorite food is berry pie. Side note, it's slightly interesting that his favorite food is berry pie and Blackbeard's is cherry pie. That's just an interesting little pie dynamic going on there. And then of course, along with that, we get to see what all of them look like as kids, because Oda does that for all the factions. Again, I don't particularly care for the new Giant Warrior pirates, but listen, if Oda's gonna include them, we may as well build out their lore. Small nugget right here. This crew that appears in chapter 1122 during Vegapunk's cursed speech, apparently their designs are based on designs that Oda drew up a few years back alongside the authors of Rurouni Kenshin and Shaman King. And when I say a few years ago, I mean like over 25. And again, if you're a geek about that stuff, then this info is really great to you, I guess. I say geek. but I'm the guy that talks about fictional pirates on the internet. But now we actually have something that is really relevant and interesting for the world building. Remember when we first met GABAN and he was doing his whole emissary of love shtick? Well, as he was mentioning all the different kinds of mixed races, one that he said in there was the Dosundadas, and everybody's wondering, what's that? Oda clarifies that Dosundadas are a mix between dwarves and humans, citing that the reason that the dwarf tribe is called the Tontadas is because of the sound that is made when they like scurry with their little feet. So if you amplify that a few decibels, which is, because you're making the humans bigger, then that approximately comes to Dosundada, apparently. And then he adds this little tidbit in there because he says that there's a mix of a giant and a Tontada, and that's called a Zushindado. And y'all, I don't even want to think about the physics of how that's possible. All I'm saying is that owl with the grow fruit is working overtime. Then we also get this freaky question from a Japanese sender because, look guys, the Japanese are just apparently overly freaky. So freaky that I'm not actually gonna get into it, so I'm moving right along. Oda also confirms, though most of us had already surmised this time ago, that the designs of the huge monster-like animals that we keep seeing in the underworld of Elbaf are indeed the same designs from Strong World. This connection is actually what made people think that GABAN was Shiki in the first place, because they were like, look, wait a second, Shiki is the main villain of that movie. We have the animals from that movie. Shiki must be here. Well, let the record show. I never doubted you, GABAN. I always knew it was you. Diehard follower of the Scopper agenda. We also learned that the snail that's been sitting next to Loki for who knows how long, apparently it's got a Hey Siri feature, which is just Oda's way of explaining like, oh, well, since Loki had his, hands tied up, he couldn't actually answer the phone. So we have this snail that can basically do it for him. Now, somebody actually asked Oda why Gungko is running around in her underwear and like, where are her pants? And you know what? I'm actually glad that somebody asked that, because that is legitimately the same question that I had in her chapter of introduction. I actually think I titled that chapter review, Where Are Her Pants? But the answer isn't great. Oda essentially says, what? You don't like her panties? Well then, they're not panties. They are a fashion statement. Like Nami and Robin and Bonnie on Egghead Island. A fashion statement. So, deflection of the weirdness, that's not a great sign. And then look at that, oh, he's implicated a child in this too. Oh dear. But speaking on Gunko's introduction, something was actually cleared up by Oda in the official release of the volume, making it a retcon. See, with official releases, they usually fix up some mistakes that were made in the magazine. In this official release, Oda actually goes out and says that Gungko is indeed a saintess. She is a part of the Man-Mayer family and a member of the Holy Knights. And it's not like we don't even know who the Man-Mayers are. They're an established family because we saw one of their members during God Valley. Now this clarification is important because it actually clues us in a bit to what happened to her past. Before this, the fact that she didn't have a saint title and wasn't from a family made people think that anyone can become a Holy Knight with good enough reason, with characters like Green Bull or Lucci being potential candidates. With this context, we now know that it's still at least within the realm of the families because Gungko was handpicked or selected from the Man-Mayer family. Now still this is interesting because we know that through her connection with Brook, she obviously wasn't always a celestial dragon. So it seems like something happened to where she got adopted into the Man-Mayers when she was younger and then more recently became a God's Knight, which still has pretty interesting implications on its own because a celestial dragon family taking in one of the lower human trash? Forget Loki's, I need the Gungko backstory. But by far the most interesting and important piece of information that was given to us in this SBS was learning more about Roger's crew. Someone wanted to know about what GABAN's role on Roger's ship was, and Oda said, you know what, I'll do you one better. Here is almost everybody's official roles. Now a quick thing to note here is that Oda gave us the information for 13 crew members, and that's including Roger, Rayleigh, and GABAN, and excluding Shanks and Buggy as the apprentices. But what's interesting is that Roger's crew had 26 people on the ship, which means Oda is essentially telling us that half of them are completely useless and should not be paid attention to. Now of course, we know that Roger is the captain and Rayleigh is the first mate. Interestingly, he doesn't denote Rayleigh to be the swordsman, even though we obviously know that that's true. Now we learned that GABAN was not only the left hand and the third strongest crew member, but he was also the crew's navigator. No wonder he made it to Elbaf so easily. In fact, I'd have to check, but I'm pretty sure it said somewhere that even after the crew disbanded, he kept like traveling around and exploring, so I guess it lines up. Which is actually very intriguing now to think about the possibilities of GABAN and Nami having interactions in the future. Like, could he teach her tricks about navigating this like final half that's gonna take them to Laugh Tale or something like that? Because you gotta think, this is the man that navigated Roger to the One Piece. And then he also navigated straight into Ripley. That's crazy. And then side note, a different SBS question shows Oda saying that he got the inspiration from Gaban's name by some French actor, John Gabin, something like that. So if that was ever your burning question, consider it answered. We of course also already know that Crocus was their doctor. He primarily joined because he wanted to figure out what happened to Brooks' old crew, the Rumbar Pirates, but nevertheless, he was still a loyal crew member. And now we start getting into the fun, the guys that we previously knew nothing about. Moon Isaac Jr. here was apparently the tactics officer, the first person in the series to have this role. And I'm glad that we learned more about him. I'd always wanted to, because that name is simply spectacular. Makes me wonder what happened to Moon Isaac Sr. Now, tactical officer, I guess that means that he was the one to kind of split people up into groups, especially during battle, like kind of the commander of sorts. A crew strategist, if you will, which honestly, I think that is a good role to have. It's one in my sequel series. This guy, Donkino, was the helmsman, Rowing was the scholar, and Peter Moo was the gunner, essentially the sniper. So they were their version of Jinbei, Robin, and Usopp. Now we also have Jackson Banner. Oda, that's just two names combined into one. You can't trick me. As the crew's musician. And then Blue Marine here was the shipwright. And as a shipwright, I wonder what he thought about the giant egg. Like, did the ship come with the egg? Maybe Blue Marine was the one to add it or bring it on? Does it annoy him because it's always getting in the way when he's trying to like make repairs and stuff? This is the reason why we need a Roger Pirates prequel. Now for reasons, Roger's crew had their very own torturer. You heard me right, torturer. And that would be Millet Pine. The in parentheses says interrogator, but y'all, his entire job was torturing people to get information out of them. Is that not insane? Which I guess just goes to show, like, yeah, we laugh and everything because Roger, yeah, he's such a good guy. He's genuinely a protagonistic force. But y'all, at the end of the day, these guys are still pirates. And even worse, Roger is clinically insane. And Millipine Loki reminds me of the dwarf from the Heroes Party in Freerun. Finally, you have Ario as the informant, and Spencer, he's the intelligence operative. My assumption is that Ario as the informant would basically be like temporarily leaving the crew at different times to go on ahead, maybe into an island or, just somewhere else in the world, get information for the crew, and then come back and report. So maybe he had a devil fruit or ability kind of tied to stealth or infiltration, stuff like that. Meanwhile, Spencer as the intelligence officer is more about keeping all of that knowledge and like documenting it. And he's the one who, oh, I remember this, or oh, I have a log of that. Almost like a chronicler of sorts. Even though technically Odin, after he joined, was the chronicler. But also, since this crew is a reflection of the crew that Luffy is trying to aim for and surpass, it makes you wonder, who could have been these different roles on Luffy's ship? Like, who would be Luffy's informant? Who would be his intelligence officer? And most importantly, who would be the torturer of the Straw Hat Pirates? If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments, because this could be its own video idea. Now, this is all very interesting, but y'all, the Roger Pirates do not have a lookout. And that's worrying to me because it makes me think that Oda just doesn't care for the lookout as a position and is basically like, yeah, listen, we have all this kind of different stuff. We don't need that. And that just saddens me because RIP Carrot for Nakama, man. So yeah, we got a decent bit of information from the SBS this time. It was definitely longer than most others have been. Most of the information was so-so. A lot of it was kind of below the barrel, but the Roger Pirate stuff, that right there is what I come to the SBS for. Give me more like that. What were your favorite questions from the SBS this time, or favorite thing that we learned? Make sure to let me know all that and more in the comments. And now we do gotta wrap up, but before we go, like it, subscribe, and share it around with all your friends who love the series, or anime and manga in general. As I always say, I'm trying to build a community, but I need your help to do it. That's gonna be all from me. I'll catch you on the next one, and always remember, one piece, one life. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to go to the gym quickly, cause it's gonna close.